Hello, welcome to DiversiTV. This is a special shot out of sequence. Given the times, we're actually shooting this in July during the Olympic trials in Eugene. We have a special guest who I'll introduce shortly. DiversiTV, as you know, roughly corresponds to the season. The seasons roughly correspond to LCC terms. We're in the middle of summer term. Technically, I'm on vacation, but be that as it may, when the time is on you, you move. So for a second. So our episode today, I call The Trials of an Olympian, Margaret Johnson Bailes. And just if you're tuning in to DiversiTV for the first time, just to acquaint you with our mission, it's to illuminate every diversity issues and give the mic and the camera to those who don't always get it. So to that end, coming out of some of the work that Sherry Turpin and I did, and with I2M Eugene, a multicultural history project, the segment that we talked about with Margaret setting records running in a dress. If you've never seen an Olympic gold medal, this is what one looks like. She competed in the Olympics in '68 in Mexico City, ran the second leg of the 400 relays, and the American women won gold over the Cuban team, and their team set both an Olympic record and a world record there. So, though won Olympic gold for a country at age 17, while as a student at Eugene High School, she was not offered a scholarship at the University of Oregon until she was 32. We'll talk about that a little later. So, with the run-up to the Olympics, this story that appeared in the Register Guard on May 11th, with this headline, basically, "The Forgotten Olympian," was basically shooting Margaret in her home in San Diego. Headline, "The Forgotten Champion." So it was a story written by Curtis Anderson, published in the Guard May 11th of this year. So one wonders, or the DiversiTV asked the question, how does one forget the only person from Eugene, so-called track city, to win an Olympic gold medal in track? How do you forget that? So, and this is a quote from the article, "She's the only Olympic gold medalist to grow up in Eugene." So the diversity answer is, in a town which celebrates only white male distance runners, who are often not medalists, you forget female sprinters, particularly black female sprinters. That's how you have a forgotten champion. So she's a black female inducted into the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame in '91, and her prep records still stand 40 years later, unbroken. So who could forget that? Well, it was not forgotten here at Lane Community College, where it's a passage, the African American experience, and articles in the Eugene Weekly, as well as commentary on KLCC, as well as the work of Sherry Turpin and myself. So, but it was forgotten by the organizers of the Olympic trials, even though we did them about that, until they were also reminded by Margaret's daughter when tickets to the trials were apparently sold out. But right prevailed, and Margaret is here with us today in a special edition of DiversiTV. This is a picture of an old picture of her coach, Wendy, and where is Wendy today?
Edmonton.
Edmonton, Canada. Okay. So if I may introduce Margaret Johnson Bailes, welcome.
Thank you.
So your coach, Wendy, was a phys ed teacher at Willamette High School when you first met. Could you describe that?
Well, how I met Wendy was at the all-comers meet that I wasn't supposed to be at. I was supposed to be going to the movies with a girlfriend, and we seen, it was at South Eugene, and it was a whole bunch of kids and people over there in South, and so we went over there to see what was going on, and so we seen people running and jumping and throwing balls, and so we took our movie money and registered into the events we wanted to do.
Okay.
Okay, so I chose the 100, the 200, the shot put, and the long jump.
Now, bear in mind, she's not dressed for track.
Right. No, I'm in a dress.
She's in a dress. Okay.
In a dress.
All right. And what happened?
Well, I won all my events. then this lady walked up to me and asked me if I had a coach. And I asked her what was that, because I was 9.
Yeah.
Okay? And I didn't know what a coach was. And so she said, well, can I have your number before I can talk to your mother? And I said, no, because I'll get in trouble because my mother thinks I'm at
The movies.
the movies. Okay?
Oops.
So she said she wouldn't tell my mother I was there. She just wanted to talk to her. So I said, okay. So after that, we went home. Wendy called my mother, and they talked, and my mother invited her over. And then my mother told her, well, that would be a good thing for me to do to keep me out of trouble. So that's how it started.
Okay. Okay. So besides using the example of another famous black female sprinter, Wilma Rudolph, she had some unique approaches to train you. Could you talk about some of those? The sprints, the starting places?
Well, Wendy, her technique was different than anybody's. Mind you, I had other coaches prior to her. No, after she started with me, then she went back to Canada, then Don Carpenter with the YMCA, and then Jim Puckett helped train me. But with Wendy, hers was more, it's like I did 10 seconds, run all out, and then you walk back 10 seconds, then 20 seconds all out, then you walk back 10 seconds, 30, then 40, and then 50 seconds. And that was one way for her to get me in shape.
Okay.
Okay. The rest of the coaches were like, okay, run the straight, walk the curve, run the straight, walk the curve.
Right.
But hers was more technical.
Okay.
And it was more, it was harder.
Yeah.
You know, and I
Sounds harder.
Yeah, and I couldn't manipulate her,
Mm-hmm.
which the rest of them I could.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because female, and they have never coached a female.
Okay.
And Wendy was a female, and she wasn't going for my
Okay.
excuses.
I mean, one of the things you said Monday at the running company was that she was almost like your mom,
Exactly.
even though 2 years older than you.
Yeah, and see, and at that time, I thought she was much older than me. But she wasn't. So, you know, and I just realized that not too long ago that she wasn't that much older than me. But at 9, she, you know.
Right. She's teaching
Yeah,
at Willamette.
at Willamette,
right,
so
yeah, right.
so that, you know, so that's how that happened.
So she's training you, she's using different training methods than most other folks, and they're harder training methods. What kind of things is she doing psychologically? I mean, had you heard of Wilma Rudolph before she talked
No.
about it? Okay,
I didn't know anything about track at all before Wendy.
okay,
And so Wendy, because she was a psych major too,
all right.
you know,
Sports psychologist. Yeah.
And so what she would do was she would gradually mention Wilma Rudolph. And I'd say, who is she? She'd go and explain to me who she was. And then she'll say, you run like her. Then she would show me footage of her.
Okay.
And I'll say,
And you would
wow.
see how she was right. So how did she run?
Well, how can I put it? The way her legs, because the way I ran like this, okay? And if you look at Wilma Rudolph, she ran like that. She didn't run, foot this way,
Right,
foot.
right.
It was one was out and one was, and that's the way I ran.
Yeah.
And her form. So if you look at her footage, you would think, and if you didn't know who she was, you would think it was me.
Okay. Okay.
That's how much alike
All
we
right.
were. And so would tell me about Wilma Rudolph, and then she would, and the more I started complaining and training, then she would say, okay, you know, the Olympics is coming up, and you're good enough to go.
You never thought that.
No. And I say, well, okay, where is it going to be at? She said, Mexico City. I want to go to Mexico.
Okay.
So, you know, she says, okay, so you got to continue to work hard and improve in order to go. So I said, okay. So she used that kind of psych. She planted the seed because I had no clue.
Very tricky. But that's good because, I
Yes.
mean, that's, you know, as an educator myself, one of the things that, yeah, and with degrees in psychology, it's like, yeah, she's doing what my old school black mentors did, okay? you have to, the old thing about, okay, you have to be twice as good to be considered equal, et cetera, if you're going to compete in a larger world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means you're going to also have to harder and, learn twice as much and stuff like that. So, and then have particular role models, and usually black role models, right? So, I mean, she's doing that kind of stuff. So the harder training regimen, but there was another thing that when I talked with you like 8 years ago, and when you explained it again, it didn't occur to me. She trained you to start like 10 and 20 yards before the finish line.
Yeah, that was part of my training. In becoming competition here.
Explain that.
Okay. In the 60s, girls, there wasn't a lot of girls in track. Probably hardly none. And so the better it was like I was beating everybody. So she would say, okay, at this track meet, you're going to set your blocks 10 meters behind. So then that means I would have
starting line.
Yeah. Then I would have to catch them. And so and she said, don't look at it as winning or losing. Look at it as a workout.
Okay.
And so we would do that. Then that didn't work for too long because I started beating them then. So then she started.
With a head start. 10-meter head start.
So, but these are girls, And so then she said, okay, she started entering me into meets with the boys. So we started high school boys. That didn't work. And then she went up to college.
Well, when you say that didn't work, you kept...
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So that's what I mean by that didn't work. So I kept beating the guys. And so she moved me up to the freshman and sophomore.
In college?
College. And...
Coached by Coach Bowerman?
Bowerman. Now, Bowerman and Wendy didn't get along.
Why? She was married to one of his athletes.
Yes, she was, but he was black and she was white.
And I guess the interracial marriage thing didn't fly in the 60s.
Right, especially in Oregon, because they were Canadian. So in Canada, they don't look at you as black and white. You're just a Canadian.
Right.
So she had to fight a lot of diversity when she was here too.
Okay.
Because she was white, she's married to a black man and had an interracial child.
Okay.
So anyway, Bill Bowerman at first looked at Wendy as a joke. She didn't know what she was doing. And I'm caught in the middle because I don't know what's going on. And so we go to the track meet, and he let us, he figured, okay, yeah, she can run. And then when I beat the freshman and sophomore guys, the next track meet was the junior and senior. Okay, and so I came in like second in the 100 to the juniors and seniors, and
with a head start still.
No, not with the head start.
You started even with them. Okay.
Even with them.
Okay.
And then in the 200, I came in I think third to them. And then after that, Bill said no more.
No more?
I couldn't do that anymore. So it got to be I couldn't train on Hayward Field. So it was a lot of controversy there.
I'm missing something, so you might have to explain this to me.
Okay.
Okay. So I thought athletics was about fair play, performance. Okay. Here you have somebody that's clearly succeeding, right? So why not give them a shot?
Because I was a female. And Bill Bowerman coached the males.
Okay.
It was a
and
male thing.
There was no women track then. I
right.
understand.
There was no women track. Wendy had started the first all-female track club called the Cinder Bailes.
The Bethel Cinderella?
Yeah. And so, and there wasn't that many girls on the team.
Okay.
And then when we went to national with Jim Puckett, there was only 5 of us.
Okay.
So, and then after, and that's when I was introduced to Y. Matthias and Barbara Farrell because nobody knew who I was.
Right.
Because most of my track meets that I ran in was in Canada.
Right.
So the Canadians knew who I was. And, but U.S. they didn't because most of the athletes was L.A., Mississippi, Tennessee,
Right.
all the southern people.
All the Southern people, right?
And so, and they were
And
all
who was
college.
this girl from Eugene?
Right, and I was in high school.
Wow.
So usually I run in the girls division. And so in the nationals, I ran in the girls division and then got moved up to the women's division because of my time.
Okay.
So they
right.
just wanted to see how I would do.
Right.
And when I beat Wayne Matthias, then everybody said, well, who is she? Where did she come from? You know, that type of thing, because they never heard of me.
And they sat up and took notice when you beat her.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
And then Wyoming's Tennessee State coach called me up and asked me, you know, wanted to coach me because he thought I was college. So he wanted me on the Tiger Bells, and when I told him I was 14, oh no. He says, okay, you have to wait until you get a little older. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Any special diets?
No.
No.
No special vitamins, no nothing.
They used to reward you with what?
Root beer
A
floats.
root beer float.
Yeah.
Okay.
To keep me motivated.
Keep
they
you
say,
motivated, load up on those carbs.
yeah. If you win this race, you get a large root beer float.
I mean, we'll do this later, but I mean, so the reason I bring this up, no special diets and just physical training, you're doing this without performance-enhancing drugs.
Right.
I mean, sugar's a drug, but
But
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
none of what they're doing today. It was just plain hard work and I guess talent. Because we didn't have any, I didn't take any supplements. The only thing I think I took was some wheat germ oil
Okay.
and some salt tablets.
So describe the road to the Olympics then.
Well, what do you mean? I mean, how I got there
Yeah.
or what was going on before
So
I
you were
got
training for certain events. You got pneumonia.
Oh,
and
okay.
You weren't allowed to train at Hayward. So
there? Well, no.
yeah.
well,
And actually, to be fair, you know, to Coach Barman, he didn't allow anyone to train there, let alone
Right.
one who beat
But-
his track team.
But after I made the team, I proved myself, then he offered to let me train there.
Okay.
So then, I there. But Wendy was a little strong, bullheaded too, just like Barman. So it's like, okay, we don't need to train there. Their track's no better than anybody else's. So you've been doing fine without it. So we didn't go there.
Okay.
I think I did some wind sprints a couple of times on the Hayward field. And then after that, when I went to, for the trials.
Okay. In Southern California.
California.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized that I was good. Because before it was just like, okay,
It's a game. Huh?
it's a game. I go to the track meets, I run, I win. Okay. And but this one was more important than the nationals. And so it was like, okay, Wendy says, okay, this is because in order for you to get there, you're gonna have to come in first, second, or third
Right.
in both of your events in order for you to qualify to go to the Olympics. So I said, okay. So in the 100, I tied the world's record. I beat Wayne Matthias.
At what age?
I was just turned 17.
Okay.
Okay. And that was in one of the preliminaries.
Okay.
And then I came back and did the same thing again. So I tied the world's record twice in one day. And then the 200, and it was funny, if I beat Wayne Matthias in the 100, she would beat me in the 200. If I beat her in the 200, she would win the 100. So we switched off, and I don't know why that happened, but that's just the way it went,
Yes. Competition can be like that.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I qualified for the Olympics and came back home and continued training, and then it was time to go to high altitude training, which was in Los Alamos, New Mexico.
Right, because Mexico's at
High
height.
altitude.
Yeah, right.
So we had altitude training. And we didn't go to Tahoe because the men was in Tahoe, so they kept us separated.
Okay.
The men were in Tahoe, we was in Los Alamos. And so that was the first time I had flown by myself. He couldn't go with me. And that was different,
Yeah.
you know. And we get there, and then the whole team is there. And so I had my workout regimen that Wendy gave me that I had to do, because we did as a team. I mean, we did our own thing, and we started practicing the relay, because the first 4 in the 100 is the relay automatic. It's not like it is.
And you still train as in, I mean, that was an issue. I guess they're talking about that on Monday. About, okay, sprinters train as individuals, but when it becomes to a team, you don't train as a team. You don't practice handoffs or anything like that.
We didn't until the race for the relay. Then, but we practiced in high altitude training.
Okay.
And they had me as first leg. They had Barbara Farrell as second leg. They had Mildred Netta as third and Ty as last. Well, the way I was trained by Wendy, when she says she wants you to go all out, that means 100%. Well, I don't know how they were trained, because when the coach says, okay, we're going to do this all out, my brain said 100%, okay? So I'm running 100%. I'm running all on top of Barbara. I spiked her once, and she thought I did it on purpose, you know. She's falling out on the track and, you know, all messed up. And I said, well, they said to go 100%. What were you doing, you know?
Right.
And so it's like, okay. And so then they switched this. They switched Barbara to first and me to second.
Okay.
And then that worked out better, because I didn't run her over.
Right.
So,
but did you run the third person over?
No, Mildred,
Okay.
I didn't, because, you know, I'm coming out, and then she knew to go.
Yeah.
When we hit the mark to go.
Yeah.
And then her and Tyus, they handed off. But then when we got to Mexico, after that, then we did some track meets and ran a couple of track meets, and then we went from there to Colorado. Now we're going from 100 and something degrees to 40.
Oof.
And so I went to get my hair done and caught pneumonia.
Ooh.
So what they did, they shot me up with 7 days worth of penicillin, put me on the plane with a high. So, you know, I'm 17, I don't know. And so Willie White, at the time, she was on the plane with me, and she said, oh, this child is sick.
Right.
You know, why is she on this plane? And so they said, okay, so once I got to Mexico, after we had our interviews with the media, and we went to the Olympic Village, then they rushed me off to the infirmary. So I was there for almost 2 weeks, eating ice cream and chicken broth. Lost all my weight, lost everything.
Okay.
And then after that, I was out there trying to get it together.
Get back in shape.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
And then Wendy popped up some kind of way in the Olympic Village. I don't know how she got there, but she walked in, and I was just upset, crying, and nobody would help. And, you know, so she said, okay, we forget all of that. We concentrate on what you have to do. And she got me, you know, back on track.
Okay.
But I was still kind of weak, but I had to do what I had to do.
All right.
So I made it through all those preliminary finals and all those races.
So then your events come up.
Mm-hmm. And my event came up at the 100. I did a false start. And I came in 5th. Upset about that, because the 100 was my race. But then, can they pause this?
No.
Oh,
It's okay.
And so then I about that. And then Wendy had reminded me 5th in the world is not bad.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
you're 5th
I mean,
in the
come
world,
on.
all
In the
these
world,
people.
yeah.
So I looked at it that way, and then the 200, I came in seventh in the world's night. Then I said, okay, now with the relay, I have to make sure that my leg.
This is after pneumonia.
Yeah,
I mean,
this
come
is
on.
after pneumonia.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I had to make sure that the leg that I was running, that I kept. If we had a lead or if we didn't have a lead, I had to do the best I could do to get the baton to Mildred. Did that, so I was fine.
Yeah.
And then, but our handoffs were kind of raggedy because we didn't practice that much because tires came up missing for 5 days, so we couldn't practice all together.
Okay.
But we got a gold.
You
we
got a
a
gold.
gold record,
Right.
and the world's record stood for 8 years. So
Yes. Okay.
that's not bad.
There you go. There you go. So you come back home, 17, senior, high school.
Yeah, and then come back home, and plane, and people on the plane says, why are all these people out there? Mind you, the airport is nothing like it is today.
Right.
It was just like a hub type thing, and you had to wait outside for the people to come out off the plane. And, so when you got off the plane, you had to walk across and then come through the gate and you go home.
Right.
And and they said, why are all these people out there? I said, I don't know. Because I had no idea that almost the whole city was at the airport to greet me back home. So that was exciting to see all those people out there.
Yeah. Wow.
And then I got they had a Margaret Johnson Bailes Day, October, I think, 17th or something.
Right.
They dedicated that day for me, and then got a key to the city, got a parade. So it was nice.
Okay. All right.
Went back to high school and, had assemblies, so I talked to, the student body, and then was back to normal.
Okay. All right. So you left the area for a while.
I left the area. My husband got a better job. Mind you, I was married at 16.
Mm-hmm.
And he had gotten a better job in Oakland, so we had to move. And so I moved away, had my daughter, stayed away until she went high, and I decided, okay, she needed to come back here.
Yeah.
Because in Oakland, she had all the diversity, but I wanted her to be able to deal with a not so diverse community.
Yes.
So she was like.
Eugene is a good crucible for that, I must say.
And so, and plus the schools, the education is better than California.
Right.
So I moved back here in '82, and she was going to high, so she went to Jefferson. She had the same PE teachers I did. Then she moved on to Churchill, same PE teachers. And they thought that she was me, so I had to go back and tell them, no, she's not. She's her own person, and she's letting. She didn't get the genes. So then they said, okay. So she stayed up here until she graduated.
But you did coach them.
Churchill.
You did coach Churchill.
Mm-hmm. I coached Churchill.
And they took state.
Yes, and the first time since I left.
Right.
Right. And the reason why I got involved in coaching track is because my nephew was in the 12th grade. Mm. And he would ask me, "Would you come please help us? Because this coach doesn't know what he's doing, and my times are not going down." Yeah. So I said, "Okay." So I volunteered. I said, "Okay, I'll come and if it's all right, I'll do it." Coach said, "Sure." So he coached the sprinters, and then we went on. I changed some techniques around, and then I had them do the swamp. I call it swamp training. Because at Churchill they had, is when it rained, the field got real swampy.
Yes.
And
it is a wetland.
Yeah.
This is a floodplain.
Yeah.
Without
So,
the dams, so
I used that to my advantage because for resistant training, couldn't take them to the coast.
Right.
So
right.
I said, we'll do this swamp. And so what I do, they had to run full out in the swamp. And then when they get on the track, they were faster.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant move. So it's at this point, because we talked about this earlier, that you get an invitation from the university for an athletic scholarship.
Yeah.
I believe when we talked 8 years ago, they had asked you if you could still run a 1200 or something like that every day with the boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean a 12,
12.5
or something like that. And I said, yeah,
right.
I run a 12 flat. You know, I can still run a 12 flat. So then they offered me a full scholarship. But the conditions on the scholarship was I quit my job. I was working for Hewlett-Packard. I had to move in student housing. And so my question was, well, okay, who's going to take care of my finances if I can't work? I have a house in Oakland, a daughter to raise, so how am I going to do all this? They said, well, they didn't know. I said, well, no, thank you. Because I wasn't going to lose everything to get an education.
Oh, at least no.
Yeah,
or as Richard Pryor would say, mighty white of you to, I mean, wait a minute, you're offering me a college education, but I have to give up my job, mortgage, rent,
everything.
You know, child care.
To benefit them.
To benefit you.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery, excuse me.
So I said, no, no, thank you. I called Wendy in Canada and told her, she said, oh, no, what about the alumni? They give these football players.
Please.
You know,
thank you.
You know, the football players get all this stuff. They get Porsches and they nice, you know.
Hello.
Yeah, but see, again, that's the female thing.
But they did have a female track team, obviously. That's why they're offering the scholarship, you know. But
well,
you're
but
32.
They didn't have a sprinter.
They didn't have a sprinter.
They have most of you. If you look at a university, is known for distant running.
Right.
Now, Harry was their #1 sprinter.
Harry Jerome, right.
And so, after him, who was it? So, so most of their stuff is distant running.
Yeah. So I'd say that's a blunder, and I guess, you know, I mean, as I said yesterday and at the beginning of the program, that would be a diss. You know, so, you know, I mean, offer something to the mutual advantage that's, you know, if they're offering you a scholarship to beef up their track team, at least they could show you some respect and do some kind of workaround, but they didn't do that.
Right.
And so I don't think it's inaccurate to describe then your experience as part of civil rights history and not just simply an athletic achievement, because, I mean, one of the things that I've noticed in the Guard article, not that that's the only record of history, but seem that a lot of people just, you know, oh, the forgotten champion. Well, a lot of people didn't forget you and haven't forgotten you. So I guess, you know, it depends on who we're talking about. So, I mean, this is like civil rights, really. And so in terms of looking at that, you know, can you describe your job? I mean, when we talked about this, you know, you were selling gene splicing equipment the last time I talked to you.
Okay. Last time you talked to me, I worked for a biotech company, right?
Biotech, right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And now I work for a water company.
Okay.
So.
What do you do?
Same thing, contracts manager.
Okay.
So what I do is negotiate and read in contracts to make sure our company can comply to whatever the customer wants, or So that's what I do.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, life after athletics, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's I mean, you have your survival mode kicks in.
Right.
You know, I mean, nowadays, I mean, the athletes are getting paid. We didn't get paid.
Yes.
At all. In fact, the men probably got paid under the table, which we knew they did. They got shoes and sweats. The women got shoes, a little bit of men.
Yeah.
We didn't get no money.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
Right. I mean.
So women back, even in the, if you look at the history of the '68 Olympics, if you look at the footage, you would not know that there were women. 5 women got gold medals.
5 women got gold medals,
but you wouldn't know it.
Right.
Because of the John Carlos and
John and Tommy.
Tommy.
Right.
They overshadowed Bob Beamon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's gripe that the women's team has right to this day is because all the footage you all see is just Tommy and Carlos.
Right. Right.
And so when we went to our reunion in New Orleans, they were showing the footage, and we're looking, we're waiting, and we don't see any women.
No.
Not even what we did, and we had a gold medal. Madeline Manning, you know.
Right. Even, okay, this day, right.
You know, so it was, you know, it's like, okay, the women was just like, you know, they was just women. Just like when they was talking about boycotting, we wasn't included in anything. I didn't know anything about what until I seen it when I was practicing for the relay. And then I couldn't understand why it was a big deal, why they made a big deal out of it, because I didn't understand why they was kicking them out the Olympic Village, and why they threatened to take their medals, which they didn't. But if you read the papers, you swear that they stripped them of their medals and all that. No, they didn't. So it's like we wasn't included in that either. So it's just sexist.
Yes, to this day.
Yeah.
So how would you encourage people today, particularly women athletes?
Well, today I would say, you know, you would have to keep your eye on your goal, and don't let anybody deter you off of what you have to do. And drugs is not going to help you.
Right.
So if I was to talk to any of the women on the team now, don't start that drug stuff, because I'll tear your body down. Because look at Marion.
Right.
You know,
look at any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and look at what you did without that. I mean,
Exactly.
root beer and wheat germ oil.
Yeah.
And that's not a training regimen, but I mean, you know, one can talk about talent, but there was also coaching there,
Right.
and encouragement there, and you know, some of the classic things in terms of, you know, I don't think I'm putting words in your mouth because you said this already, but I mean, your goals are not just your achievements, but your goals are beyond the track.
Exactly.
Too. Having an education.
So, you know, it's like, and I looked at the times, and the times, well, yeah, 10-7, 10-9, 10-8, and 8. That was better than what we did, but if you keep looking, it was 11, 11-1, 11-2, 11-3. So still, they're running what we was running.
Right.
And they have technology.
Yes. And you had nothing.
Nothing.
Right. I mean, was the 4-minute mile broken or achieved, or, you know, with drugs? No,
No.
it was not.
I know.
So.
But personally, I think it's because of the professionalism and the contracts that puts pressure on these athletes today that make them have to drive to make them better. You know, because, you know, Nike is telling them, okay, if you do a personal best, you get a bonus money, and if you break a world's record, you get this amount of money.
Right.
And so it takes all the fun out of track.
Right.
You know, if them all down and say, okay, there's no more this, and no more that, and let's see who's the real athlete, because most of them are driven by money.
Right. And
we were just driven by just pure. We wanted to go.
But also, and I can't emphasize this point, I mean, as an educator, I can't emphasize this point enough. Your goal has to be beyond the money
Exactly.
and something else, because like my standard of reference, because this is how you know, the athletes that are in my family, you know, are educators or civil rights activists, or you know, I mean, and these are black people, so it's like, you know, the Paul Robesons, you know, and you know, I'm not going to name the people in my family that don't, you know, but you know, that's what they do.
Right.
You know, I mean, actually, my Uncle Burl was the first black referee in the NFL.
Okay.
You know, with, you know, while being a assistant superintendent in San Francisco Unified. So, but a football scholar, and you know, kids go to Berkeley, and you know, one of the kids are, you know, for the Bears now. But
Hmm.
again, the same thing. Your goal is beyond, the playing field into life. That's where you're going to succeed, because your athletic career is only going to be happening as long as you're young enough to compete.
Exactly.
It's a very narrow window.
And back then, you was only, you would, as long as you was on the track, you was a hero. Off the track, you was just another person.
Right.
So
Or
that's-
another N word, depending on where you were, right? And
Exactly.
So, again, you still have to succeed. So, did I hear you mention that you were going to school again?
Yes, I am. I'm in accelerated program to get my BA. So
Okay.
I'll have it in August of next year.
All right.
I'm-
In BA in what?
Business administration,
Okay.
concentration on project management,
Okay.
to go with what I've been as 20 years.
Right. Oh, might as well get the degree since you've already proved you can do it for the last 20 years. Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just for it to be on my resume.
Just so I can put this out now, because I talked about this briefly Monday. Given the educational experiences you've had in Eugene, particularly with the trials, the U of O, and all that other kind of stuff, you would have an honorary degree
Yes,
from them?
I would.
Yeah, because that's been educational in itself.
Exactly. I sure would.
I mean,
I
I
mean,
think they have a lot of making up to do here,
I mean, if you get Oprah and all them, they get honorary degrees.
Right.
Bill Cosby, they get. Why can't I have one? Sure.
We'll have to inquire about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, if you were to do this again today, where would you start? If someone were to basically, offer you a job, producing athletes the old-fashioned way, not just being able to excel on the field, but in life, and you were designing that project, you had that project, what would that look like?
Well, first of all, I just found by talking to the coach in Churchill that kids are being charged to participate in sports,
Yes,
and that blew me away. I mean, $150 per kid.
right.
Now, if that had happened when I was coming up,
Wouldn't have happened.
it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
And to me, a lot of kids are being looked over because their parents can't afford the $150. So you might have very talented kids who parents can't afford the $150 who nobody will know about.
Yeah.
So if I was to come up here and start a program or whatever, first of all, I would concentrate on the underprivileged kids.
Okay.
That would be my first concentration.
Okay.
And then I would go to all these Nike and all these people who have sporting goods stores and get them donate shoes, uniforms for these kids. And then I would start get the kids together, and then I would want to know what their goals are. That's the first thing. When I started coaching at Churchill, the first thing I gave them homework.
What homework?
Well, first thing I wanted
Coach
to know.
Margaret?
Yeah, the first thing I wanted to know was your goals. Whether it was athletic or not. What is your goal in life? What do you want to do? If you didn't have any, then we have to work on that.
What was your goal? I mean, if
My
you'd been
goal was
asked
to go
that-
to Mexico,
Okay.
Mexico
Okay.
City.
Okay.
That was my goal.
All right.
That was my goal.
I mean, I think we talked about this off camera before we began. So, your father was a musician,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he traveled around. You were born in New York, and he had traveled around on what we were Chitlin circuit.
Mm-hmm.
So black musician. He played bass for Nat King Cole's brother,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously they came through Eugene
Mm-hmm.
at some point, and so he came here. So you here,
Right.
but that wouldn't necessarily give you an exposure to the world. So you wanted to go to Mexico. You wanted to see the world. Because he had done that, obviously, as part of being a touring musician, right?
Right. He went to and all that stuff. But I wanted, when Wendy told me it was in Mexico City, I said, okay, I want to go there.
Okay. All right.
And so that was my goal. And then when I got there, I got to meet Wilma Rudolph. And then she gave me a lecture about me being the baby of the team and I should be at bed at 9 o'clock. And I'm telling them, no, that doesn't work no more. But, you know, those type of things.
Well, Wilma was raised old school, so you could understand that.
And she was under Temple, so, you know, and she was young, so she had to be in the bed at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it was, but I got to meet her. But that would be the first thing I do with these kids. I'd say, okay, what are you, you know? If you didn't have any, we had to figure out some.
Okay.
Because you have to have a goal.
All right.
In order to achieve anything in life.
So then what next steps?
Then after I got that back, then we would go in. Then I'd have to figure out who's a sprinter, who's not a sprinter, you know, and just work from there.
Swamp training. But then, what's swamp training for the mind then, for example?
Well, swamp training, it can either can defeat you or make you strong.
Yeah.
Because swamp training is hard.
Yeah.
So, and they wasn't allowed to quit.
Right.
So it was like, okay, so I can't do this. Oh, no, we get rid of the word can't. There's no such thing as can't. So you get out there and you do it again. And if they stopped, they had to do it again. So then it's like helping them to go beat their hurdles, you know, run through their hurdles in life, because swamp training is part of life.
Right.
You know, when you come up against a hurdle, either you're going to go through it or you're going to go around it, you're going to go over, you're going to stay on this side, and you won't achieve anything.
Or if you're running a steeplechase, you know,
Yeah.
getting your feet wet is part of
Yeah, I mean,
the whole thing.
The whole
right?
thing,
Yeah.
you know, so it's like, So, yeah, everything I did it was hard for them. I mean, I had kids throwing up because they chose to eat burritos before a workout. Well, they had been doing that before.
Right.
But, you know, with me, no, okay, so why are you throwing up? Well, I had a burrito. Well, you don't eat like that before you work out. So it was part of the training.
Yeah.
So they learned.
Delayed gratification, discipline.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, as part of meeting your goal. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that'd be it.
Okay.
Simple. Keep it simple.
Because the Nikes would argue that they do stuff like that already.
Really?
You have some doubts, huh?
Well, I mean, what do they do?
Yeah, well,
I mean, they may have that kind of, I don't think they do.
I don't think they.
Because everything's so technical.
Yeah.
So they send them down there to the Olympic training camp, and they sit there and take pictures of them and try to improve their strides and, you know, their workouts. But I'm talking about grabs,
Right.
you know, get them trained up like that.
I mean, you can see some of the advantages of what Wendy put you through.
Yeah.
Right. And most people are still not doing those kind of things.
Yeah, because Wendy put me through, helped me through life, you know, not only on the track, but, you know, to be able to deal with disappointments. Don't have pity parties for too long, because you have to figure out how you're going to go next step. All this came through my training in the track. You know, somebody tell you no, don't take no for an answer. So, and that's the way I'm on my job. I don't take no for an answer. If you know, somebody, I don't know something, well, okay, I'll find out, you know.
Way around it. Yeah.
So she helped me a lot. And I think more coaches should get on a more mental thing instead of a money thing.
Yeah.
Because it's all about the money now.
Yeah. Mental,
Yeah.
not money.
Not money.
Okay. So not that your life is over, but looking back and thinking about, what final thing would you say to, any final thoughts?
Well, I wouldn't take anything back that I went through because I learned from that.
Yeah.
And I think it made me a better person. Not looking for handouts and all that stuff, so I wouldn't change anything that I went through.
Yeah. I mean, because I read, it's tragic that, she, could have gone farther. Come on,
Well, and see, and like everybody who was interviewing me said, well, did you ever think about going back? Well, no, because at that time, I was just my child.
Yes, and let's
and
prioritize.
Yeah,
I mean, this is real life.
And that woulda, shoulda, coulda stuff is not going to work. And so,
you were coached to that anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't think about what I could have did 4 years later.
I mean, you have a lot to be proud of still, what you have yet to accomplish.
Right. So, yeah, I don't regret anything that it was what I went through is what I was supposed to go through.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer of that.
Yeah.
That's I was supposed
Your steps were guided.
So, and they still are being guided.
Yeah.
So, I just go with the flow. I don't look back and say, well, if I didn't do this, because that doesn't do anything to help you.
Right. Well, I mean, it is perfect because, again, you have one of the highest athletic achievement in your lifetime, okay? You've set goals, you've accomplished them, It doesn't matter. I mean, even your grace in being dissed. Right? I mean, because I watch your face. When I said, it's like, there's a little, well, yeah, but, you're not bitter about that.
No.
Again, people ask, well, why didn't she come back to Eugene? I said, a lot of people leave Eugene. The world is bigger than Eugene. I mean, props to Eugene for, having a better school system than Oakland.
Right,
say.
but economically,
yeah,
what would I've done in Eugene?
right.
They didn't have a Hewlett-Packard.
Yes.
They didn't have the biotech back then. So what would I've done?
Right.
With no education.
Right.
Nothing.
So
I had to go.
You made it.
Mm-hmm.
You made it, and we're glad you're here. We'll be glad to have you back.
Okay, I'll be glad to come back.
So if you've liked what you've seen, email us at liveclass@lanecc.edu. Give us feedback, and we'll try and have Margaret and maybe Wendy back at some point, because when we talk about people succeeding on a larger field in athletics, that's one of the great examples of doing that.
Well,
And I want to thank you.
Thank you.
So this has been DiversiTV. I'm Mark Harris, and go well, stay well. We'll see you soon.
new development like where I'm staying at.
Okay.
Okay, and the guy, they need water. Well, most of the water is not coming from the water company, the local water company. You know, because you need the pipes, we supply the water,